manje adinayo iminingi ngoba i-apartheid seyiphelile kithi. So mangabe sithi sisebenza ingoma temzabalazo is like sesisebenzisa ukulwana nama-parties. So angiboni iminingi eyayo ukuthi kahle kahle seyini.
Mina ngicabanga ukuthi lama struggle songs wakudala lawa saseneminingi ukuthi thina si-youth futhi nala as entire South Africa. Because naku sasekhona nalengoma lethi safa saphela isizwe simnyama ineminingi ukuthi thina abantu abamnyama.
Pina just striking na exabona import buhloko ba tsona because anabele arisana iminingi ka re ke dipino tja hale and then le rena batho ba se bjale bjale a re sa di understand.
Mina ngicabanga ukuthi obviously lengoma bazicula sanemini ngoba labantu balela amalungelo wabo yabo kufanele la i-clip down abakayenzi nix so bona basafuna nezindlu nani.
Mina ngibona ngathi le ngoma lezi mizabalazo zakudala lezi siyasixabanisa manje because isuse ubuhlungu ngento ezayenzeka kubafowethu uyabona no dade bethu no mama bethu.
Sanibonani and welcome to iDaily Thetha. Namhlanje kulesibili siyathetha ke nje obwazi sonke isikhathi makolelo hlelo. Namhlanje sibuka kakhulu ukuthi iningizimu Afrika ithathwa njengekomkhulu lama strikes nama protests ahleze enzakala. And ufuna ukwazi ukuthi lama protests nama strikes abakhona aletha yini ushintsho osiyem kwaqeni nje seyoba ngomsindo but ekugcineni nakho konke ububikho umohluko bakhona. Yona into seringa namhlanje Tumi.
Okay nira la amogela naka lebitso ke Tumelo Stlogolo sa mathomo sa ga Mothotswane. Thank you for joining us. Ke no mention gore lo khonole we're putting the spotlight on the protest culture. I'm saying Tumelo, what exactly are you talking about? And for the example, well, you know, dating back to 1956, the Women's March, they were protesting against the pass laws. 1960, the Sharpeville massacre, South Africa. In 2012, the very much media highlighted and covered Marikana protests also took place. And then in 1976, June 16, South Africa. Leona is an example of a protest. But of course, most recently, last year, the students took it upon themselves. They will march during the Fees Must Fall protest. So look at the culture, protest culture, the role it plays in making things happen and things to change in the country.
While abantu abaningi beprotesta to me into ibe inkinga kakhulu is that akugcini kunjalo abanye abantu bagcina sebelutha badamage ama property bashisa imonto bashisa amathaya abanye abantu bengasakwazi nokuya emgwaqeni as well. So that's what we're going to be looking at ngempela ukuthi kukhona noshintsho after lama processes siba nawo or we just going to emgwaqeni just ukuthi siba ngomsindo ekugcineni nakho ngaphi ushintsho libakhona.
But I think what's also important do protests play a notable role in making sure whatever change as South Africans or we need in the country, whether it's service delivery, quality decolonized education, do they happen? Or it's just an excuse, chaos, or people are injured, or that's what we're asking today, and we will be asking our audience members have they participated, protest and what they think. Okay.
Ngiyaphila njani?
Ngiyaphila igama lakho.
Ngiyaphila ukuthi igama lami ngozama sibongo azikhali and mina ngibona ukuthi strike sibaleke kakhulu ngoba size siqale nje sisuke sami semgwaqeni ukuthi into esokade sicelile noma kade sayikhuluma before size siye emgwaqeni siyoyigxoba ukuthi siyengezwakalanga. So that is why size sisuke semgwaqeni and futhi emva kwalokho kuyezwakala because abanye abantu abayizwa nje enye language ngaphandle kwe violence. Fanele usikize ke emgwaqeni kushiswa amathayi kwenziweni.
So violence is the way. The protest or a silent, safe barking protest right.
It is kind of right. Ngisho ngani ngoba if we can go there to the road and just sing nje ngiyasizwakala bafuna ukuthi kube khona into edestroyekayo and if kukhona into edestroyekayo emva kwalokho bazokwazi ukuthi yazini kuze kungenzeki more damage we must do something about it. Then after that mase we mark benza something.
And when have you participated Kagarga strike any of the protests much whether Fees Must Fall or in?
Yes, I have. Kwakuyimalane NSFAS because sas applyelile then akaze sesithole. Ikhulungu leyo nto ngoba usukwazi usuke ekhaya elingekho right kodwa egcineni fanele uthi uthole education. Sonke sayifuna education egcineni fanele senzele something abantu basemakhaya ngoba suke sathi silambile kodwa egcineni ufuna ukuthi siphakame nathi sibonakale emphakathini.
Yes. The views are coming in very strongly there.
Kakhulukazi but I'm worried about intayishilo but ngifuna ukuthi uyavumelana nayo umfowethu lana ukuthi uhulumeni ukwazi ukuthi ezwe once kukhona into ezidamagekile. Do you agree with that?
Yebo ngiyavuma 100% ngivumelana nayo because if like siyahlala thina singabahlali like ema township ne as much as in the township clearly there's nothing that's going to happen ne and manje la ekolweni we strike for everything, but then there's no service delivery.
So the culture of good you need to damage something, because we've seen amanyama students a color with something, agcine asabulala even ama libraries ashisa as well. So instead of maybe ayikho indlela engenziwa ngaphandle ukuthi damage property or anything esukikhona.
No, I don't think so.
Sure.
I don't think so.
Time to go about this. Also at home, I think now ngiyazi ithuba lokuthi usifonele just to find out ukuthi uthini umbono wakho about this. Give us a call on 011-339-1315 or find us on Facebook, daily_Thetha, or usithole futhi lapha ku Twitter as well at daily_Thetha.
Absolutely. I was saying, Reina, you are from AfriForum. If you could just please pass on the mic. What do you think about protests in South Africa and also the damaging of schools and property and also libraries in the process? What are your views as AfriForum?
Thank you so much. The thing is, we firstly need to draw a line between what we see as protests and riots. You see, when a protest keep on for too long, unfortunately, we see the phenomenon where it turns into a violent riot, and that cannot be tolerated. Having a protest where you bring over your mindset, what do you want, what are your demands, this and that, you can sometimes stand there and you can reach mutual ground. But the thing is, in South Africa at the moment, we are sometimes worse for wear when we turn to violence.
Sure. And I'm actually wondering that doesn't the chaos and, the violence and, some of the things we see on the street take away from the essence of the protest itself, that sometimes even the media shifts the attention from, understanding why young people, even people in general, are protesting, to now the spotlight being placed on the damage goods. Let me just come to you, my brother. Kupo Pasa on the mic. Have you participated in a protest before? King Libizola.
Yeah, senke ngaparticipate kwinto vele yokutoyitoya. Kunokutoyitoya vele ngibona ku right mina cause into ebeyenziwa vele from qala. Yabona. Kahle kahle kuyafuna ukuthi siyitoyitoyele into, maybe like abantwana maybe esikoleni abafundiswa mhlawumbe ngendlela right. Thina singabazali or abazali kwamele bayitoyitoyele leyo nto bayekwazi ukuqonda ukuthi why abantwana bengafundiswa esikoleni because siyazifuna nathi izinto ezile. Kodwa ngibona ukuthi kumele ukuthi sitoyitoye ukuthi size siphula izinto. Yabona uma uphula izinto phela sesinazo ezinye izinto. Manje angeke ukwazi ukuphula lento onayo. Lenye osoyiphula uzoyithatha kuphenye. Yabona.
And ile waleka maybe umhlomo participating in the petitions other than gotoyitoy. Have you considered it? Gore le sign a petition or bona ka high effective petition.
Yabona yokusayina yona ayibi right. Into ekumele niyenze ukuthi nitoyitoye but then ningaphuli izinto. Yabona manje nitoyitoye izinto zizoba right.
All right.
And I like the point ukuthi singaphuli izinto because isikhathi abantu abasobe protest abagcina sebenza kuba nzima for abanye abantu abaseceleni. For instance, abantu abakwazi ukuphumela even elokishini, abakwazi nokuthi baye emsebenzini just because abanye abantu ba protest, and kuzagcina kushe neemonto as well. We've seen that. But let's go on Facebook and see ukuthi abantu bathina about this. Christopher Sabelo Kumete, if we can change our approach in protests, maybe there will be a solutions, but women's vandalizer things. Guys. Okay, cool stuff. Siyabuya after this. That's because umbono wakho thina part uhlelo namhlanje ukuthi ikhona le solution yok protester ngaphandle ukuthi kube khona izinto ezilimalayo. Siyabuya saku Daily Thetha.
Of course, Daily Thetha gona mo gae re lebeletse gore the protest culture in South Africa di tswa kae and di thomile neng, and what's their role in South Africa, especially rena as the citizens ja Africa borwa ge re nyaka gore di concerns ja rena, our frustrations of course di be viewed and di be noted by government. Well, if mhlomnga o tsebe gore since 2008 over 2 million South Africans ne bantshi ba participate in the protests, strikes and marches, so clearly it's a very popular activity in South Africa.
And also into sobesibhekisisa as well ukuthi ayikho nenye indlela where izwi labantu ngazwakala ngayo ngaphandle ukuthi sisize protest, because abanye abantu babuka ukuthi protest is the only solution and ugovernment akalaleli if ningayo on the street. We're going to be asking expect to we do have Kapeng Makoko, Freedom Salwats, as well as Ibrahim Fakir, political researcher, and Tsolanang Mabitseletsa. Unkorrect ning ngishigama lakho, I don't know. I'm a Zulu, so I'm a Zulu. You have to forgive me. Guys, welcome to Daily Thetha.
Thank you.
Let me start with you, Ibrahim. The culture of protesting, where did it start in South Africa?
Well, it started a long time ago. It started in sort of before 1652. So you got to think about resistance to colonization, to imperialism, and then, of course, protest and resistance against apartheid. And so post-apartheid, what we have is a residual legacy of the kind of protest and resistance culture before 1994. But remember, there's a distinct difference. Before 1994, like the Arab Spring that people like to talk about, That is protest and resistance against an unjust government, about authority which is formed in ways which are illegitimate. Post-1994, what a lot of protest about is actually trying to make democratic government work.
I mean, you are a freedom stalwart. You're a veteran. How important was it to incorporate the marches, the strikes, mobilizing as Africans or South Africans, so that government the consensus?
Kirata, the word that you used, part ya protest, the importance in everyone for you, especially Harimacha, and when we sing, is to mobilize more people. Because in the songs, if you can listen to the songs, there is a message in the songs to galvanize the people around that, you know, and to create awareness, more community. First, to create awareness. This is a challenge. We can unite against this demon, and face it and deal with it together.
I think sometimes they look confused international media when other media from around the world cover, but you looked too happy to be worried because you were singing, you were dancing, you were not crying, you were not sad, you were not necessarily so even when I see some of the international media, but we're confused. Is South Africa broken or are they in a celebratory mode?
Maybe we should begin it this way. As Africans, we sing, whether we are happy, whether we are hurt, phone, everywhere. It's part of our culture, you see. So we don't necessarily sing. We basically, when this togetherness, make us lively. It's not about happiness.
Right.
It's about liveliness.
The energy.
Yeah, the energy.
Let me come to you also, Tsolanang, is that now when we see the marches and protests, we see people looting more than anything else. Some people are, I've seen it on a fees mask fall as well. Some people were carrying stones there and people are like, these are not students and everything. Is the culture of protesting changed completely, like what it used to be, or still the same thing?
I think we need to firstly distinguish between distraction and disruptions. And I hear everybody using the word violence, violence, violence. But the thing is, protesting in its very nature is violent. And when I say violent, I don't mean physically destroying stuff, and which is why I say we need to distinguish between the two. There are necessary and important forms of violence, such as us making sure, for example, that classes stop so that varsity can be brought to a standstill, which would be completely different to saying, you know, you need to burn down the library and so forth. So I think when it comes to protests, there are certain forms of violence that are necessary and somewhat acceptable, but we need to just, you know, be able to draw the line. And the thing is, you also need to remember that by the time it gets to things being destructive, what are all the things that are leading up to that? If you speak of FISMAS 4, management and the university also need to take responsibility for students getting to that point, because you know, you're called for a mass meeting. When you get there, you're greeted by policemen and heavy security that are carrying guns and live ammunition.
Violence. I need to understand that. Let's just bring the mic back to you know, the Afro Forum team as well. Is there justifiable means of violence? Because I mean, I don't know, maybe because I haven't participated necessarily in mass protests, I don't understand the culture, but for me, when I read or hear the word violence, I get automatically intimidated.
But apparently there's an acceptable one.
Is there an acceptable form?
I would say no, absolutely not. When you look at people's human rights, you can never not take that into account. Human rights always need to be at the top. And when people get hurt and when property is destroyed, then you're taking that away.
And let's just get another view from yourself as well, my lady. Your name, please, and your views.
Hi, my name is Maddie. The thing is, When it comes to protest, we recognize that there needs to be taken certain actions in order to get the necessary attention to the cause. Like she mentioned now, like disrupting university, disrupting classes. We, as AfriForum, we don't necessarily agree with the approach because we see that we cannot, like he said, we cannot violate someone's human rights, another person's right to go to class, instead of someone wanting to achieve a certain goal, like fees must fall, for example. But like she said, in certain circumstances, it is necessary to slightly be a bit radical, and let me explain my definition of radical after this, in order to get the necessary attention, like she said. Being radical should not be disruptive at all. There are other ways to get attention, to get in meetings with management. We know that can be difficult at times, but there are structures and protocols for a reason, and we should take this into account firstly.
All right. And one thing I want to find out from Ibrahim is that what are the dangers of if you are about or think about organizing a protest? Because we've seen people being harassed and rubber bullets. What are the dangers before I even think about it?
Well, it depends on whose perspective you're talking from. I mean, obviously, if you're talking about students and you're talking about government, because, you're focusing on big protests which happen against a system, and you're losing sight of the fact that there are actually in South Africa almost 300 community protests a year. Since the year 1998. There have been on average 300 protests in communities around the year. So the student protests are merely a slice, a fairly elite type of protest, and they have very distinct features. But let's talk about community protests, and let's answer your question. The one danger is obviously we have a system, a constitutional dispensation, which says everyone has a right to actually assemble, picket, all the freedoms, all the fundamental freedoms. But there is a regulatory process that you've got to go through. So you've got to give permission, you've got to require permission, you have to apply for that permission, you've got to put certain safeguards in place, such as marshals and so forth, and then you are entitled to do so. That's your first hurdle. If you don't do that, you are very likely to attract exactly the kind of things you're pointing to. Police action, authoritarian repression. Now, I think also let's not lose sight of the fact that in South Africa, at least over the last 10 years, and Marikana is just but one example, sometimes people go through all the processes. They get all the requisite permission. And yet, there is a repressive arm of the state which reaches over.
All right, so let's just hold right there, Ibrahim, please, unfortunately, because we have to take a call and then go for an ad break. Tabang all the way from Limpopo, Amorela. Rona le kae pap?
Rona.
Eh, comment.
Yes, my 2 cents, ne?
Why le 2 cents is 2 rand? Give it value, man. What daily tete?
25 rand.
Yes.
What happened, Corey? Nakweka muka. The protests are in their nature meant to make executives and the management uncomfortable. Mara, these days when you look at how violent protests become, the only thing you can access, the only thing you can disrupt or destroy is the very same tools and your rooms as far as student protests that you can destroy. It's only those things that you can access. Management offices are not accessible during violent protests. So at the end of the day, you end up having to destroy the very same things that you need to use on a day-to-day basis. I think we need to have a different approach to make the management and executives uncomfortable during protests.
King approach when we suggest king. Right, already got the petitions, we know already got the silent protests. What are you bringing to the table?
2 years ago, you had a situation wherein a minister of finance was appointed. The country was uncomfortable. There was a protest, a social media protest. There were teachers thrown to say we are not comfortable with that. The decision ended being invested within 3 days. We made the management of the country uncomfortable through a peaceful protest. People threatening to stay away from it and stuff like
all
that.
Right,
those are the kind of approaches we can make.
All right.
Maintaining our own rooms.
Nora Papa, thank you so much for calling. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. We're no advocator for peaceful protests. But we have to go for a short break. When we come back, Ronaldo guest now we're still getting into the royal protest culture, how it's changed since 1652, 1956 to 2017, and they're still going on around our communities. We'll be right back. Lokon Leon Daily Thetha re bolela ka protest culture in South Africa. Re nyaka go tsebana gore how effective are they? Are they backward? Are they forward? Are they effective? Or mohlomongwe is it just an excuse mo leng gore go na le chaos? Le batho ba leng gore maybe ha ba tsebe why people are marching, why people are striking. Ke nako ya bona gore le bona ba participate. Mohlomongwe ebile ke bona ba lutang more than ba leng gore bona le molaitse o leng gore ba nyaka go send off. But we're trying to understand exactly gore even when we protest for service delivery, for education, is it still effective, Nakini?
Yona nto sifuna ukuyibhekisisa kahle le ukuthi kuyasiza yini nokuthi sona siphi isixazululo singaba nazo 2017 right now ukuthi yona yiphi indlela singakwazi ukuthi siye emgwaqeni or sikhulume no government ama issues wethu aweze ngaphandle ukuthi kube khona ukulimaza kwempahla nokudicilela phansi kwezinto ezahlukahlukene. I see something also on social media, it's daily_Thetha. There is something from Kidingwenya uthi our government uzwa ngelitshe njengenkomo so phambili ngomzabalazo. So this guy uthi for government was understanding kumele ujike litshe ne. I don't know. What do you think about that, my brother? But do you think we need to loot and throw stones so that government uzokwazi ukuzinto so thinking hayi?
Ayigama lami nguCharles Ngwakunene. Ngiyavumelana nomfowethu la cause umuntu omnyama udinga imvubo. Udinga nje ukushaba kuzezwe.
Asikhuthazi udlame on Daily Thetha. So nje okay, comment yakho but ungakhuthaza ukushaya kwabantu.
Kodwa na kumele sinangizabalaze kumele semgaqweni silungela amalungelo ethu because na okhokho bethu babona baye emzabalazweni abathulanga lutho obaba bethu baye emzabalazweni abathulanga nathi siya emzabalazweni sifuna imfundo ugovernment wethu basithembisa imfundo yamahala dolo asithoni namanje angazi mina kumele senzeni ukuze sothola imfundo lesi esifanele ngcono bona babe ngaphansi kwealpartheid thina sibosho ugovernment wethu usibophile.
Siyakuzwa umbono wakho mfethu and I don't know can you pass the mic that side Siswam do you think ukuthi khona indlela yokuthi nathi singa protester but singa damage property and everything?
Yes, I think protesting is the best way, but the problem is that when we destroy our own resources, because silindele ukuthi ugovernment asenzele ezinye izinto sibulala izinto. What about that, like for example if sisikole what about abantu abazayo bazofunda kuphi simele ukuthi asenze lento esifunayo ngapha futhi kumele alungise lesikole sisisile so ngicabanga ukuthi mina kumele ukuthi like kube nenye indlela.
What is the proper way according to you of protesting?
I think kumele ukuthi sikhulumisane no government wethu hayi ukuthi si protest ngalendlela ukuthi silimaze our resources.
All right, let's come back to Reina. Reina, let's just talk about perhaps some of the effective ways, because we're trying to understand, you know, the effectiveness of protesting or striking, and you advocating that for no violence, for no destruction whatsoever. What are some of your alternatives from protesting?
We personally had, and again, I would like to say that a protest is different from a riot, where we see that AfriForum in the past has staged silent marches where we would march from points A to B. There would be media, they would get our message over to the people. The people in the decision-making positions would know what our mindset is, and you can go further from there.
While you're marching, do you sing or you just go quiet on the street and then you go sit there somewhere where there's a media? What do you do while marching?
It's not necessarily marching as such. It's just walking from point A to B with your signs and things. So then usually someone would give a speech to let everyone know, either a leader of the people there that might bind them together, so that you can work together as a collective towards a goal.
Let me come back to you, Ndati Makoko. And you know, I keep hearing about who protest especially if we disrupt certain things like classes, as you mentioned, so that management can hear the message. But I've seen, not necessarily in protest, but whether the conferences, warning in our country, whether the struggle songs, there's some sort of power to leadership where they listen this particular song or maybe so it means so there's some sort of power, at least in the songs back in the days, would you say?
Like I said, there is a message in the songs. We just don't sing songs out of the blue. These songs have a message. One, the message ke ko bathong ba mohlomong re nang le a challenge le bona, and a message to others ba re batlang gore they must be part of the protest to mobilize people around. Maybe batla go tla le mo tabeng ya violence. Taba ya violence really is I think from where I come from, the violence comes from the other side. The people who protest, you can go to 1976, you can go to the 80s, you can go to the 50s and so on. People protest peacefully. But when people protest peacefully, the other people who want to battling a repression, they start shooting. Then that's where the violence starts. That's where the violence starts. So the culture of violence, the culture of violence has started from the protesters per se. It started from the repressors.
And let me come to you, Mr. I don't know. When we see police, some of us say attempt, which everything is going to be fine. But do you think police presence when there is a protest actually makes abantu more violent?
Yes, because especially at our level as students, you really feel like you're walking into a hostile situation, you know, as girls, I mean, if I refer back to the initial Fees Must Fall, it had gone to a point where we were not on campus and people were outside, and there were some students, like Grassy got arrested for just sitting on the grass where he was literally being manhandled, and there are videos of this footage on Twitter. But when it comes to media reporting on it, all you see is, okay, the point where now students are fighting back and throwing stones at the police. And which is why I was saying earlier on that to a certain extent, management does need to take responsibility for the way in which they handle the situation, because then it does end up getting out of hand, although that was not the initial, intention. And I won't deny the fact that, of course, when we are protesting and we are trying to come together, there are certain elements within the group that will want to, sort of, the classic one rotten potato spoils the whole bag case, So yes, a few individuals tend to cause everything to just turn sour for everybody. But in general, and I can speak from my experience, having been there in the initial Fees Must Fall, Afrikaans Must Fall, and FMF Reloaded. A lot of the time it was when the police came, when private security came, and they manhandled, students, and we witnessed it, that everybody then came to everybody else's defense. And
let me come back to you, Ibrahim, and also point out the police contribution or factor. What's the role of the police in a protest march? Is it to protect the masses or to sort of resist against them?
No, it's a little bit of both. Because, look, I think it's unhelpful to assume that just the police are themselves the instigators. That's not always the case. And if we're going to have an honest conversation, there's elements of truth to the fact that the police can be repressive, the security apparatus can be repressive, the state can overreach itself. But it is also true that there's a creeping intolerance in our society. It's part of the fabric of our political culture and political violence. Let's just take two examples. If you take some of the students, okay, and it's true that some of their protests have actually yielded results, because we now talk about decolonizing education. We talk about access to education. There's books, there's seminars, there's workshops, there's colloquiums. But the largest countrywide colloquium, which was held to service the students, was actually met with intolerance by the students, even though they were consulted on every issue, right down to the agenda. Okay, so there's a creeping intolerance. Let's face that fact. Think about the 2016 local government elections, where sometimes protests are stemmed from inside a political party, because you are against someone else wanting to be the councillor, or you want to be the ward councillor. There were 26 deaths, 26 people killed. We didn't make a big noise about it. These are internal political ructions which happen. So this political violence, this culture of the dialogue of the deaf, is becoming increasingly problematic, because it is saying there's this entitlement culture. I simply want what I want, and if I don't get it, I'm going to destroy it. On the other side of the divide, some of the research we've done, people actually say, look, if you don't burn, government won't hear.
Yeah.
And if you do something dramatic, you get the attention of a senior policymaker or a decision maker. But it's always counterproductive. If you think about some of the most successful outcomes, has been multiple strategy engagements. You can do class occupations, for example, depending on which context you're talking about. If you think about labor strikes, a combination of factors, strikes, together with negotiation and engagement with employers have yield results. But the most important one, treatment action campaign, multiple strategies, court cases, protest, resistance, but also engagement with policymakers.
All righty then. Well, let's go to a short break. Unfortunately, let's go to an ad break. We still continue with our conversation. To what extent do politicians also use baswa to push, of course, their political agendas during these protest marches? We'll be back after this.
Welcome back to iDaily Thetha. Namhlanje sabuya le culture leyokubhekisha ukuthi yasiza yini nanokuthi esikhathi esiningi sinokubona abelungu nabantu abamnyama bengahlangene makubhekishwa kodwa abantu abamnyama ngibona ngathi banenkinga kakhulu. Does that mean ukuthi abelungu aba-affected ngenkinga ekhona eNingizimu Afrika? Let's find out from you on 011-339-1315. That's the number sisebenza cishe ngasho WhatsApp number. Mawethu Emfuleni, welcome to iDaily Thetha. Kunjani?
Kuyaphileka futhi kunjani ku?
Sikhona mawethu. Talk to us. A question yakho, a comment about uhlelo namhlanje?
Yeah, well, I would like to comment. Bengingathanda ndoba comment regarding inansika le topic ninayo namhlanje. It's quite interesting.
Yeah.
I'm just going to raise the points, maybe three. First of all, we've got a constitution that allows people to protest, However, the very constitution, to protest must violate who is not protesting. Secondly, I do believe as a spade violent protesters means the criminal elements that tend to hijack as a protests as Thirdly, I would like to encourage law enforcement agencies to also work very hard, damage to property and so on, because as much as protest office money is being used for build as structures back. Then I do feel good some of our leaders use again abantu, or let's say incite abantu, so that they can become relevant or selfish ambitions zabo. So they tend to incite abantu in some way to act in that manner.
Sure. All right. Yes, briefly please, now we have to move on.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we've done away with the days of using the matchbox. People need to grow up.
All right, thank you so much, Mawetu. Thank you for the points, Chagaro, and actually raising the question in this segment about how do politicians also use young people. Mimi in Rustenburg. Hi, Mimi.
Hello, hi.
Rona, isha volume ya mo fast. I think ikukwela o ka uteletse mo TV and then reblele mo phone. Iring comment ya gago le khona.
Hello, le kae?
Rona, iring comment ya go Mimi?
Recently, we tried to Oh, yes. And then there was a strike. And then people had to ban a clinic. And then it got me, how can you ban a clinic? I mean, that something we're going to teach in the near future.
Yeah,
so women struggle to come and then buy out to other villages to seek help.
Sure.
So sometimes for me, it's like, but what I did, I said just for fun. I mean, like, you're striking for something and they end up looting the shoppers and foreigners. What is that?
Mara mimi go le batho bang ba leng gore ba protester, they say asirena ke ba leng gore ba na le di agenda tsa go tla ba senye the message e leng gore ba le ka go ipusha ka di protest. Do you feel gore ke batho ba ne ba protestang or ke batho ba leng gore ba itshelekela ba tlile ba senya protest e we ka go fisha? Osalogana Mimi? All right, seems like we're Osalogana, can comment ya go briefly?
Yeah, the comment I can as youth, we should know. But
All right, Mimi, unfortunately we have to say goodbye to you because it seems our line is breaking there. But Rena, welcome back to the White Couch. Hussein, of course, you are the chairperson of AfriForum Youth in Tax branch. Let's talk about also one thing that Guinea also mentioned regarding racial lines, that it seems that, white South Africans have their own type of protest marches, and, black South Africans and Indian South Africans and colored South Africans have their own different type of protest marches. Is there a distinct sort of difference in the way that different races march in South Africa, in your opinion?
Saying that there's a difference just based on the color of your skin is a bit, I would think, a bit shallow. But we see certain cultural aspects coming through to what we see on the streets when the people march. But really, I think that caller that just called in that said we should put down the matchbox and grow up, that was golden for me. And I think that applies to us all. I mean, you get violence from all types of people.
Yeah, but also how do you distinguish then between, as Guinea mentioned before about the fees must fall, with certain people that are identified even on social media as being not students or being perhaps people that partake in criminal activities? How do you then make sure that everyone that marches knows the intentions of the march and no one is there to push their own criminal or violent agenda?
All right, what she said earlier is very great, was a very good point. The thing is, the university management, I'm talking specific to Fees Must Fall, are infamously bad at handling these situations. They do not know what to do. Instead, they militarize campus. Instead of solving the issues at hand, hearing what the students have to say, violence can be averted.
Let me throw it to you, Ibrahim, that we still see this everywhere, where black people are marching and white people are marching. Does that still makes us divided as people of South Africa?
Well, in part, yes, because of the inherited legacy of apartheid and separation. But we're missing a subtle, important class dimension. And think just about the protest against e-tolls. It was a very different type of protest. There's no one running on the streets, no one breaking the highway, no one actually destroying the infrastructure of the highway. So there are new emergent class ways in which people protest. So a cross-racial, multiracial, middle and upper class actually do so through withholding taxes, rates boycotts, and other subtle forms. Contrast that with what happened last week, where the taxi drivers decided that they're going to blockade the highway because they don't like the price of quantums. A very different aspect to the way in which protest happens. So it's not just racial. Of course, there's a racial aspect because of our inherited legacy, but there's an emergent class dimension. And some of the class dimensions are not just about subtle ways of withholding taxes or rates. It is also about using different strategies. Because they are better organized, they can approach courts. Because they are better resourced, they can actually approach parliament and decision makers and local councils. And perhaps this is the lesson, is to better organize on a minimum core set of demands without mixing them up too much, so that you can actually target strategies and who you're going to go to with them.
Let me come back to you, Tula. I mean, you're a student activist as well, and we touched on the aspect of politicians perhaps using young people to mobilize, and that's the allegations going around, and also the allegation around paid social media and paid, social media protesters having to push a certain agenda to fit certain political parties' agenda. As a young person and as a student, is that the case? Are young people being used by politicians to sort of push an agenda during protest marches?
I've observed personally with some people that I know that being the case, but I don't. Overall, generally, I would say no. I wouldn't say that that's.
You're smiling, so I'm not sure if this answer is authentic or not. It's like, I know, but I don't want to mention names, but I kind of want to be safe.
There are one or two people that I do know whom I can say that, yes, that is indeed the case, because they're trying to grow in their institution, they're trying to get, struggle points, that sort of thing. But generally, like that's not what happens on a regular basis. We are about, students and our struggles and fighting for ourselves. And yes,
I'm asking this because I remember even during Fees Must Fall, when there was the march taking place in Pretoria at the Union Building, there was a rumor of a third force funding certain structures, funding certain people, or pushing certain agendas. So I think it sort of halted or how can I say, discourage certain young people who are in it for really quality decolonized education, feeling like, are people being paid here to march, or is really this authentic?
And also in community protests as well, some people will always say something like, people are being used. Is that the case?
In part they are, but it's not always the case. Often the demands are fairly spontaneous. They're actually tagged to a service delivery issue. Sometimes, of course, they are tagged onto the issues of unaccountability. So a councillor who is not known in the community, a councillor or a bureaucracy, officials who don't respond when you go to them with complaints. So sometimes they're about a lack of accountability and a lack of responsiveness. And responsiveness is the important feature here. But let's also not lose sight of the fact that the example I made, 2016 local government elections, 26, 28 potential councillors murdered, right? Why? Because there are internal ructions in political parties and people use sometimes communities in order to achieve their own agendas.
Okay, cool. Usahleli kanjalo ekhaya nawo nombono wakho. Wanna find out exactly ukuthi sesivala nje ungakwazi ukuthi going forward singaziboni sesiluthwa kwenziwa zonke lezi zinto mas protest after this.
Welcome back into Lebeliche, of course, Daily Thetha. The protest culture. And then moving forward now, what can we do to ensure that violent the clinic they don't they're not burned aren't continuously burned anymore. The library, how do we make sure message wa fitla government, message wa fitla the corporates, while at least we are saving our resources?
And if ukuza futhi kakhulukazi nakuwena ixazululo lento esikhuluma ngayo ukuthi wena ubona kanjani isixazululo Facebook, Twitter, as well as naku WhatsApp. I see something on Facebook Simpiwe Smelane as well, which we can protest, but I say no in burning useful resources. That's a solution. But let's find out on WhatsApp about this.
Sanibonani studio. Igama lami nguSindi eSoweto. Mina ngiyavumelana nobhuti olapho ukuthi kungatoyitoywa but makungadestroywa ama-libraries nezikolo. Kungadestroywa nje into seyikhona. Makuvalwa indlela, kushiswa amatayari so that kuzozwakala maybe lokho kukhalelwayo. But ukudestroy into seyikhona mina ngibona ngathi ubulima lo. Ngiyabonga.
Oh, Sanele uthini about this here, ne?
Hello, this is Sanele Mganga. I see the conversation that you are having on TV. Yeah, in South Africa, there's nothing that you can do without going to streets and strike. Then the government will hear you, what you want to say. Otherwise, they will just sit there and have coffee, don't do anything about what you want. Especially now, they don't do anything. They want to see people acting before they do something, before they act to that thing that you guys want. Thank you.
Yeah, Sanelu fairly coughing, like phony coffee, because it's halting the progress that they're trying to make.
Maybe invite and have coffee with Sanele, and then they'll understand. Yes, and then have that conversation, and then coach.
True that. I don't know, Mr. Makoko, you know, comment, earlier on. Please use your mic, sir. Close to your lips.
There seems to be this emphasis, yahore protest violence. Protest is not violence. Those are two separate things.
Your microphone.
Oh, sorry. Protest and violence are not related at all. You see, if we take these things superficially, without looking at the history, we'll end up mixing these things.
But Baba, how about the fact that now we see that happening?
Yeah, I'm coming to you.
Okay.
You see, is that initially in our history, our people protested peacefully. Would go on protest. I can go to the 50s. I can go to 1912. I can even go to the 50s. Yeah. You know, you want to protest peacefully. Protest is a form of expression. You know, as people, we have various ways of expressing of ourselves. You know, but I want to emphasize this point. In every most of these protests, or let me say historically, you'll have the other side reacting with violence. And sometimes the other side plans people. Hence we had in our days people that we called agent provocateurs. We just didn't invent that word. Those people were there to provoke the protest and turn it into violence.
All right.
I see.
Thank you so much, Thetha Makoko. I think we needed definitely that history lesson as well. But let me bring it back to the mic. Maybe give it to the lady sitting right next to you. About young people also being used, because they're impressionable, and as Solu said, they're trying to score struggle points. How do we make sure they're educated about the causes of protest and not be led astray by people they're older and the agenda? What do you think, Gwen?
I think protester. Abantwana bangaprotesta for imfundo zabo.
Yeah, all right. So we need to make sure at the end of the day, as young people, we need to understand why we're protesting. Just move the mic, please, to the guy in the front. Move the mic quickly, please, because we're running out of time. The guy in the front, yes, Papa. What do you think? How do we make sure young people are not captured? I think that's the Twitter word. How do we make sure young people are not captured, but why they're protesting in South Africa?
Okay, mina I think ukuthi abantu mele babheke babe ne point ukuthi kahle kahle ba protestelana. Yabo. Because of kuze kuzo protest kunendaba khona I background yabo lento leyo ukuthi isuke kahle kahle.
But still on background as well, I want to find out how can you make sure that you understand it? Can you even ask questions when people are protesting? Should I be even part of this? Why are we protesting? Because you'll find that there's one councillor Ongawinang, and then start now all these protests and everybody start looting and burning things on the street. Should we even ask as people, why am I getting to this protest?
Or should we just get in there? What's the best way to ask? Ibrahim, we'll start with you.
Well, you must ask yourself why you want to protest. It's an obvious question. Second is, the context is different. We're no longer under a system of illegitimate, unjust government. We are now, the government is a collectively owned resource. It is ours, and we can demand a level of responsiveness and accountability. Protest is not the only way, and specifically not destructive protest. Protest is necessary. It's an active citizen right. It's a good thing. But depending how it's used, there's a combination of strategies. Consumer boycotts, for example, in the 80s. If you don't like something, just this weekend, don't like what Outsurance did. Well, you don't have to go burn Outsurance's property. Pull your money and take it somewhere else.
Right.
So consumer boycotts, using courts, engaging policymakers, there are multiple strategies.
And I also want to bring it back to you, because you're young people and you are student activists in your own right. I think growing up as young people, sometimes we are impressionable and we move into a more of a mob mentality kind of. If you see there's a group of people dancing and halting, you want to join. How do you also make sure that you do your research before you protest? And let it be effective, briefly, please. You want to just
the thing is, if you can look at who is organizing it and you can look at their morals, you can simply follow something that is in line with your morals.
Yeah.
And that's basically it.
That's the best of us.
Last in closing?
Okay, your question was whether protest action brings about change. For me, it just sets down it's the basis of the revolution. The part where change will happen is when we hold the people that are representing us accountable and we learn how to actually follow through. We are in a democracy, so we sort of need to let go of this victim and entitlement mentality.
That's a good one. Thank you so much. Thank you to all our guests for joining us. Thank you so much to our audience members for joining us. And thanks to you for joining us, Koraye. It's been a very informative show, learning about the history of the protest and the future Yarona as young people in SA. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.